What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down a very, very important level to watch for and how the markets respond to the GDP numbers, not to mention big news from the markets and Tesla. But before I break things down, all information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. We deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. You deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends in just about 6 days from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. Looking at Tesla, we dipped all the way down to this 212 area, very, very close to it, exactly as we predicted, only to see Tesla try to rebound. So it came very close to my target, a little bit lower, only to get bought back up. And this is because of the GDP numbers. So the GDP number that was really, really important was the GDP growth rate quarter over quarter. This was at 2.8% above expectations. The GDP price index is at 2.3%, showing more signs of disinflation. And we also have other sectors like initial jobless claims below expectations. So we got a pretty decent report, especially the GDP numbers showing some strength in the economy. And the market's getting a little bit more of a positive reaction. GDP sales, however, were a little bit below expectations. But besides that, the GDP growth was quite stable. So that's what the market is looking at in terms of our data. Then at 11 o'clock a.m., we also have the Kansas Fed composite and the Kansas Fed manufacturing numbers. Might cause a little bit more volatility, but that's pretty much it. There's also news coming out about Tesla. Basically, we ended up seeing it dive quite a bit after some big news that came out. And there's also some talk about how Tesla's once again not really in the best of places according to analysts because there is what they describe as an EV recession. We're seeing some analysts out there kind of reducing their price targets. So Goldman Sachs and Citigroup cut their Tesla price targets. Goldman lowered its price target to 230 from 248. And we also have Citi, which basically reduced their target to about 258 from 247 or 274, excuse me. So that's something else that's worth noting after earnings reports that came out. We got some downgrades. And there's also some news coming out that Tesla's pausing the Giga Mexico project over whether or not former President Trump is going to win the election. This will depend on a lot of different factors like tariffs and such. So I can't wait to see what happens with those. But this is going to be very, very important. We'll have to see what happens until then. A lot of stocks dropped really, really hard. Now we're starting to see some signs of rebounding. This is what I kind of predicted would happen. But the question is, can we hold and maintain the levels, or will we lose some key supports? I'll go over those in just a minute. One last thing worth mentioning is that we have earnings coming out. We had American Airlines this morning. Then everything else is very minor, like Skechers after the market closes. American Airlines is dropping quite a bit on weak profit forecasts, so not the best of guidances. They did beat on EPS. They also came short on revenue. In fact, they're actually very close on revenue, but their guidance was not very good. That's why the share price is down for American Airlines. So sadly, that's why American Airlines is down. For Tesla, as you guys can see, we're trying to hold this 212 area, and now we're starting to see a more positive reaction. So I'm going to be looking to see if Tesla could continue higher towards 220. If we end up losing, okay, or closing below 212, Tesla's at risk of dipping all the way down to these lower levels, all the way down to these lower imbalances to 205, then 200 if we lose 212. If we hold this, I'll be looking for a rebound. There could be an attempt to get back up to 220. If that breaks, our next target will be all the way up towards 222 and then 225. So it's going to be your targets on Tesla if we hold this 212 support. We marked this and called this out yesterday, and so far we're holding this on Tesla. So this is a good sign. We might be trying to push up into the 220s, in my opinion. But that depends on if you can try to break past these resistance levels or not. So make sure you watch and see if Tesla can try to hold the structure. As long as we hold above 212, there is potential for it to try to rebound it just a little bit. For SPY, on the other hand, is attempting to rebound. So we've been kind of trading around this trend line. As you can see, we have this big white trend line, and we actually ended up touching this right over here. And now we're trying to hold up. So it's very simple. When you look at SPY right here on the daily time frame, there is one thing that concerns me. We're trying to rebound a bit. We're going to be looking at 542 as resistance. If that breaks, look for 544. Make sure you watch those levels very carefully, and if that breaks, we could be getting closer to 548. However, guys, don't be too confident about that. It also depends if it can hold above 540 or not. So look for a test of 542 in the morning. We'll see if that breaks. If it breaks, we could go up to about 544. But if we end up turning later on, watch 540 as critical support. If we lose 540, there's a big gap to fill all the way down to the 536s. And we're going to likely come down to fill that gap if that ends up failing, if we lose 540. So just be very careful. We're barely holding 540. I think we might rebound a bit to at least 542, if not 544. But then, like I said before, you still want to be very, very careful. Same thing with ES. We haven't fully filled this gap down here. Came close to doing so. It could rebound a little bit, but then be careful. We'll have to see if we come back down. SPX, it's trying to get, I think it's going to try to get back above its 50 EMA. That's 54.34. But if it loses that support, we do still have this big gap to fill. So it's not necessarily done yet. We might rebound a little bit, but there is still a risk of us coming back down lower later on. So don't be too confident quite yet. NQ is also doing something similar. I think it might rebound a little bit. We could be making our way back up towards the 19,300 area, but then see if we get a rejection, start dipping to this imbalance down here. It's not necessarily in the clear quite yet. For Nvidia is currently around 113.5, so it's not doing too well. I want to see it get back above 115. If it fails to do so, it's at risk of dipping to much lower levels, such as the gap to fill all the way down here. There's one gap all the way down here to like 110, and there's another one later on. So I'm a little bit concerned about Nvidia. We're still looking very weak. I think there's a risk of more downside, but we'll have to see if we can try to get back above 115 or not. If it fails to do so, I'll be looking for a move all the way down to 110, 107. I do see a risk of downside for Nvidia. For the QQ, still looking kind of weak. It's trying to rebound a bit. It could make its way back up to about 464. If that breaks, we could get closer to 468. But if we reject right over there at 468, we could continue lower. So look for a little rebound. It's going to rebound in the morning, try to get back up to 465, and we'll have to see how well it holds up. It could just reject, end up failing, and then continue to make its way all the way down towards 460 and then 454 if the move ends up failing. For Apple, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We have resistance at 220. And if we reject and end up losing support at 217, I'll be looking for a dip all the way down towards 215 and then eventually down towards 212. So make sure you watch those two supports on Apple. We're going to rebound and maybe get closer to about 218, if not 220, but then see if we get a rejection. If we do reject, make sure you watch the supports I called out. Let me just go over a couple more. Coinbase is kind of dipping a little bit. It's actually barely holding support at 239. If we lose that support, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 232. If we hold this, we could try to rebound. So look at key support around 239. We'll see if this holds or not. Looking at Amazon, we're rebounding to 183 during the pre-market. Could push up for 184, but watch and see if we get a rejection because we still have kind of like a head and shoulders like structure, especially when I pull up the 4-hour time frame. So it's not looking that good on the 4-hour. There is a risk of us losing support at 180 to start dipping down to 174. So watch and see if we hold 183. If we break above 184, it could rebound. If we end up rejecting, look at 180's key support. And if that breaks, we turn bearish. So I think it might retest 184 for a little bit of a push, but watch and see if the levels hold. For Meta is trying to rebound. We're going to be looking at resistance on 465. If that fails, this will be dipping all the way down towards 455. So watch 460's key support and see if we hold up. Microsoft is also trying to rebound, could be retesting 432. If it rejects, we could dip lower. It's still bearish in terms of its trend. So it could come down, make a lower high and continue lower, or it could just dip from here. If we lose 426, we turn bearish and we could be dipping all the way down to about 416. So be careful, guys. Same thing with Google. We're kind of rejecting here. We have 474. 174 is resistance, and we have our main support down here around 170. There is a risk of us dipping all the way down to 170, so watch for that as well. Anyways, that is pretty much it for my video. I want to thank you all so much for listening. As far as Tesla goes, we're testing some critical supports. We'll see if Tesla could hold this 212 area. The GDP numbers were quite positive, so we'll have to wait and see. If we lose 212, don't forget to be watching for like 205 and all those lower levels like 200. If we hold this, we could try to rebound. So I think that it may attempt to push a little higher upon open, but we'll have to see if we can maintain this structure. So look and see how it reacts to this resistance. 220 could be coming soon on Tesla, if not 222 if we hold support, and we'll see how well it does from here. With that being said, thank you for listening. Watch the levels very carefully, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you and peace out.